Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World, and in this video I'm going to do the character review for Viole. The reason being is that obviously this guy just recently got a buff to his Revolution 4 and 5 and is now one of the best DPS in the game. We're going to look at the usual points. I'm going to talk about how good this unit is, the skills, exclusive equipment, gear, ignition weapon, rapport, revolution, and maybe a showcase. I'm still not sure about it because I'm not at a really high deficit. I'm only around like 210 now, and I pushed quite a few floors already. If you remember, last video was around floor 102. Now I'm at floor 110, and I didn't do much, just clicked auto progress and waited. Pretty much rearranging maybe teams every now and then, but like it's still pretty easy. So the the fights that I can show you are not going to be crazy, but maybe a couple just to have a brief idea. But again, they won't have much value, unfortunately. So yeah, I would say we can just get started. And I will say Viole now, thanks to his buff, but also thanks to Albelda, is a really strong unit. And I think is one of the better DPS that we have right now. Without Albelda, I would still give him an S plus ranking. So he's still a really solid unit even without her. And if you don't have Albelda Revolution 5, she's still an awesome support for him. Revolution 4 would be amazing, but if you just have her like 0 dupes or 3 red, still perfectly fine. She will just give him a lot of good attack buffs that are extremely important for Viole. Not much the defense, I mean you don't really care much about it, but okay. And the additional swiftness as well is pretty important. And Viole is one of the units that have crazy high swiftness thanks to his kit that we're going to look at in a second, and also all the buffs that it can get from different units. So yeah, really solid. His damage is crazy, and you can just forgo any sort of defensive capabilities thanks to his special move that gives him 10 seconds of invincibility. Unfortunately, it's only up 50% of the time because there is a 10-second downtime before he can cast the next special move. So that's a big deal, I would say, but definitely Albelda can help in those 10 seconds, just keeping him alive. So really good. And we also need to see if there is any enemy left after those 10 seconds anyway. So yeah, really solid DPS unit. Now let's just quickly have a look at the skills. The passive is where some of his swiftness comes from. His swiftness will be increased by 12 for every red element ally at the start of the battle, up to a total of 60 if all 5 are red element allies. Pretty cool, I will say. Then another part of his passive is that whenever he's hit by a close range attack, he's going to ride his blue orb, which is the sort of surfboard, and he's then going to move somewhere else to a safe location, which is usually where there are more allies and less enemies, kind of thing. And he's going to increase his attack by 8% until the end of the battle. This is not really happening that often, so this 40% max is not really happening, I will say, but okay. And the cooldown is 5 seconds, reduced to 2 when the Thorn is active. I wouldn't really rely on this portion of the special move. Maybe it triggers once a fight, maybe. But okay. Then for the revolution, we're going to look at it later. Black hole sphere. This is the where most of his damage is coming from. Viole creates 5 banks that deals 400% of his attack as damage, which is 2000% attack as damage, jolting the targets. If the Thorn is active, which is the special move, each bang flies at a random target and explodes. Well, I mean, they were already random kind of thing. Or wait, actually I don't know the black hole sphere. I don't remember if the black hole sphere is 1 per enemy unless you are in the Thorn. To be honest, as soon as you have him Rainbow 5, you will never see him cast a black hole sphere outside of the Thorn. Might happen actually, but yeah, I didn't really pay that much attention. Anyway, when the Thorn is active, the targets are random, which might mean he needs a bit of RNG at times to hit the right targets. If all 5 go to the target you really want dead, then that's amazing. If they all go on a tank, maybe like, I don't know, a Ghost or an Urek, they might not even die from those, so it could be a bit tricky, but whatever. There is also an explosion, so it deals AoE damage, and it's going to deal 620% attack this time, which is a lot bigger than 400%. Obviously, that's like more than 3000%. It's actually 3100% attack is damage, amazing, and also stuns for 3 seconds instead of jolting. So really, really good. And then the revolution, we're going to talk about that later. Then we have the other active skill. This is pretty bad. I don't like it. He's going to teleport to the enemy, dealing 900% of his attack as damage and knocking them back, and then returns to his original position. And the skill is enhanced while the Thorn is active, dealing the same amount of damage to the enemies in the rear. This is one of those active skills that if it didn't have them, it would be better. Just because he's going to teleport in the middle of the enemies, and without Builder Revolution 5, he's going to do this one 2 times. If he didn't have this one, it would be amazing. Like it would probably be the strongest DPS in the game. But due to this active skill, is actually like this active skill, one, wastes time because now his basic attacks deal more damage than this active skill, and he also puts him at risk when he doesn't have the invisibility from the Thorn. So this is one of those that if they let you like disable skills, like disabling this one would make him a lot stronger. Really, really awful skill, but okay. Then we have the Thorn, the special move. Is going to activate it to increase his attack by 80% and his swiftness by 80 for 20 seconds. This buff used to be amazing. Now with all the attack buffers we have, is a lot less relevant. The 80 swiftness, on the other hand, is pretty huge. And he is immune to status effects for these 20 seconds. His active skill cooldowns are reset when he casts the Thorn, which is really good as well. And while the Thorn is active, Viole skills are enhanced, well, as we read before, and his basic attacks jolt targets. Good on a lot of enemies, shit against Urek. You don't normally want to use him against Urek, but you're forced to in the trials. Still fine, I would say. However, his energy is not restored. This is fixed by the exclusive equipment, so it doesn't matter. Until the Thorn is no longer active. This doesn't matter at all. It's like directly removed from the exclusive equipment. They should do something like they did for Revolution, that they added the information here. They should do the same for exclusive equipment. But yeah, okay. So this is basically the kit. Super simple. His main source of damage is this black hole sphere, and with Revolution also the basic attacks. But we're going to read that in a second. For now, let's just go over the exclusive equipment. And his exclusive equipment has a good crit damage increase. I would say for Viole would have been better to have crit rate in this case, because he's a ranged unit. He gets the 90% from the subnodes, but it doesn't get crit rate, and it doesn't get crit rate in general in his kit. So it would have been better the other way around, but it's still fine. Then while the Thorn is active, Viole attack increases by an additional 20%, so a total of 100%. Nice, but again, we have so many attack buffs, is not as huge as it once was. While the Thorn is active, Viole becomes immune to the energy recovery block and energy decrease effects. This also applies to the effect that I was mentioning before in the skill itself, so it will be able to regen energy. Pretty good, I would say, though there is still the 10 seconds is not invincible. I'm going to read it in the exclusive equipment level 4, but whatever. Level 3, absolutely irrelevant. Viole recovers 200 energy when the Thorn becomes inactive. He's already full energy, like even before the invincibility expires. Level 3 is entirely useless. Not even a single use case where this could be beneficial in the list. It's just zero value. They might as well change it or leave it empty. But okay. Level 4 is really, really amazing. Viole becomes invincible for 10 seconds when the Thorn activates. The problem is the buffs of the Thorn last for 20 seconds. You cannot cast it again within those 20 seconds. So this invincibility only covers for half of the time of the buff, which makes sense. Otherwise, he would be pretty much invincible. But if it was like 15, that would have been a bit better. But unfortunately, it's only 10 seconds. Still, it's perfectly fine. No problem. Really, really good level 4. And he's also a master. You cannot do anything without level 4. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the exclusive equipment. If we look at the gear, it's pretty straightforward. You want accuracy if you don't have enough. You want crit rate and crit damage, absolutely. And the other two are pretty much irrelevant. Evasion, fine if you have enough evasion in general and you can be above the enemy accuracy, otherwise it's irrelevant. And slot 4 doesn't really matter. I have everything at +5 because I used to level every single piece for old units. So you'll find that all my old units will have +5 in everything. I could +5 everything anyway, but in general, if something doesn't bring me any value, I avoid doing so. So in Viole's case, slot 2 is the most important. Slot 1, if you need the additional accuracy. Actually, I think here in my spreadsheet, I kind of inverted them, to be honest. So let me just do something like this. Let me correct it. Okay. It was still the old values. So yeah, slot 2, the most important. Slot 1, whatever. And the other two are just irrelevant. To be honest, we could even say +0. He's relying on his invincibility, doesn't really need the additional resistances. You're not running him with resistances anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the gear as well. For the ignition weapon, you can now do two things. One, and I think is still the best option, would be to go with the... Wait, I didn't even change... I think I changed it. Why? Maybe I did other changes, not this one. But yeah, I believe L is still best in slot if you use him with Albedo Revolution 5. If you're not using him with Albedo Revolution 5, then Sundance is actually amazing. Because he's going to do a lot of basic attacks, and his basic attacks now deal relevant damage. Again, only if you have him with Revolution unlocked, because that's what is boosting his basic attack damage. If you don't have him, like if you have him only at 3 red, then stick with L. If you have him, I believe it's Revolution 4, yes. If you have him at Orange 4, Revolution 4, then you can move to Sundance. And if you are Rainbow 5 and don't have Albedo Revolution 5, stick to Sundance. If you have Albedo Revolution 5, you can move to L. So yeah, that's kind of the idea, if it makes sense. Maybe I will write it down in the notes here as well. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. And let me see if there is anything else worthwhile mentioning. But for this, it's pretty simple. Just crit damage increase here, magic pierce here. I don't have them at +20 because I didn't spend a lot of keys. I just put together a set, give him enough stats, kind of like 55 to 17, 74% magic pierce. I will increase them by leveling these pieces for sure. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I will definitely take them all to +20, but it's not as important, I would say. You only care about crit rate, crit damage, and magic pierce. If you can get crit rate to 60%, that's amazing. Crit damage as much as you can, and magic pierce again as much as you can. Everything else is pretty much irrelevant in terms of stats. And why did I say crit rate 60%? Because you will want to run in with a Yellowy Revolution 5. So she will give him 40% crit rate, 50% crit damage, and 40 attack speed. So amazing, really huge, and this guy will just shred everything with Yellowy. So yeah, that's more or less the ignition weapon as well. For Rapport, just max him out. Now accuracy is not that big of a deal with all the buffs we got to the archive. Still, at least level 4. That's the usual. But he's a DPS, just get him to level 6 and you're fine. Especially now that we're getting so many gifts, and every time there is a new unit we can buy 175 of the selection chest that is basically a level 7 rapport. So there is no excuse anymore to just not level it up. Just level it and it's fine. Then let's have a look at Revolution. And well, in terms of subnodes, attack speed is the most important. Actually it's not the most important. This is probably the third most depends. It's actually a bit trickier because normally you want this to proc the special move earlier, but if you have him, if you don't have him Rainbow 5, this is the most important node. If you have him Rainbow 5, then the others are a bit more important. Effect hit is actually a really good stat to increase on him, so you might as well put some points in there if you want. I would say 10 would be enough, just in general. Attack speed, really solid. Attack percent and crit damage increase are super important nodes to unlock, as is the max cooldown reduction. Now this is less relevant if you have Albedo Revolution 5. If you don't, then this is a bit more important to have. Basic attack pierce, more important if you don't have, again, Revolution 5 Albelda. So definitely, if you don't have a Revolution 5 Albelda, both of these are super important. If you ever, then you might as well just ignore them a bit more, but they're going to be beneficial anyway. So yeah, I would say these two are the most important nodes, then attack speed, then these two, kind of the order. The max HP, the HP recovery, irrelevant. Accuracy only if you need to. I already put 15 levels, but I didn't really need to. And effect hit is also a nice one since he has jolts and stuns. Is definitely nice to have. Kind of up to you in the end. Okay. In terms of effects, we have Revolution 4 that is enhancing the passive. Now, the old Revolution 4 was just the first half of this, which is his blue ore skill is enhanced. When the skill activates, it removes status effects and restore 40% of his max HP. And this triggers when he's hit by a close range attack, which hopefully for you is not happening often. Then the second part was added recently, and that is Viole's basic attacks gain 2 additional projectiles from 3 to 5, something like this. His attack speed is increased by 5 and basic attack pierce is increased by 6% each time his basic attack hits, max 20 stacks. And yeah, this buff is pretty amazing, and his basic attacks are now hitting like a truck. The only issue that I see here is, again, if you have her with if you play him with Albedo Revolution 5, because he's going to deal a lot of active skills and not spending as much time casting basic attacks. So you cannot really expect this to hit the 20 stacks reliably. I still haven't checked because we don't have a stack counter of any sort. Since he has 5 projectiles, if he can proc 5 stacks every basic attack, that would mean 4 basic attacks, which would mean you get this effect immediately, basically, like in no time. But I don't know. We have no way of testing it, unfortunately. Since it says basic attack hits, I'm guessing it is for every projectile, but I cannot be sure. Still, amazing Revolution 4. Really, really strong. Then we have the Revolution 5, and here is mostly the same. It was the explosion radius is doubled, but now it's also immediately cast again, which is amazing. You cast it and then you have its cooldown reset and you can cast it again. Amazing. And it just increases his burst a lot. And I think I said in one of my previous videos, and this is going to be extremely important because Since his active skill while the special move is active is random in terms of targeting, it's better if you cast it again instead of just doubling the damage. Because if you double the damage, you might hit the wrong opponent and deal more damage to them. But if you cast it 2 times, it's a bit more consistent because maybe the first cast was wrong on the wrong targets. The second one might be a bit better and target the actual units that you want to kill. And considering there is a stun on this skill anyway, it will cast it while the enemies are still stunned. So there is no risk of them attacking you, whatever, which also increases the length at which the enemies are crowd controlled. So all in all, for me, from my point of view, is better than just double damage. But yeah, I feel like I already talked about most of this stuff when I went over the video where I gave the updates on Gustan, Urek, and him. But yeah, whatever. I think it's good to have a dedicated video for him alone. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the Revolution as well. And I will say we can just have a quick look at some fights. But as I mentioned, it is not going to be as important because my deficit is pretty low. This is the team I usually lately running him on. Awakened Drak has no purpose, no value in here. It's just a frontline tank. I didn't want to bother switching and using somebody else, whatever. I just said, okay, let's just use Rak. Is going to provide the additional 12 swiftness to Viole just for him being red. So that's fine. We have a Yellowy with a very bad set here, Doris set. I don't care if she dies because the buff is going to stay on Viole anyway. So she just has a shitty one. I don't care. So yeah, she's just going to provide swiftness to Viole and then the 40% crit rate, 40 attack speed, 50% crit damage. Amazing. Xiaxia, I also didn't give her anything actually. I don't care if she dies. I mean, the 112% attack increase is nice. I could give her a set, I just couldn't be bothered since the deficit is already so low. I don't care, basically. And then we have a Albelda with a Rafflesia on, just because why not? That is going to provide him crazy good buffs. So yeah, this is more or less the composition I run with him. I also have a composition for like single stages, but it's not really optimal. I will say that. We can also have a look at that in a second. But again, it was not meant for Viole, so when you see that, don't worry, I guess. So yeah, let's see. Is going to start with bangs. The damage of a single bang is pretty high. Then he's casting it again. And she actually didn't proc the passive, unfortunately. Now she did. I hate when it teleports to do that skill. But then he got the active skill reset thanks to Albelda. And now he's fighting a stupid Vargarv that doesn't want to die, but he will have to die. So there, 1, 2. Then he's teleporting with this useless skill. Then there is the reset again. And then that guy is dead. So yeah. He's pretty solid, but again, this deficit was nothing. It was like 210 deficit. It's not really anything to talk about. I will try in the following days to also keep on pushing. I cleared like 8 floors in the last 2 days. I will try to get to 120. I'm pretty sure I can easily do that. I just need the time to actually try it. And let me just show for a second the team here. This is one of the worst teams that you can run Viole on because there is no synergy. You're losing 3 red slots. I would rather replace at least Garam with Yellowy. Garam here has no value. There is nobody dealing damage with their special moves. She's just here because I couldn't be bothered to swap units. I was like, okay, the enemies are green. Let me just put in a Viole. But I didn't bother to rearrange the team. So here, before there was like a Irang. Now there is a Viole. There could have been a Calavan. There could have been anyone. I don't care. This is really just a random setup that no matter who I put here, they will win just because, again, the deficit is low. So this is not a good team for Viole. Nare could be used actually, but whatever. We could keep Anniversary Iwa, is okay. Garam doesn't have any sense. I would say just use Yellowy, Xiexia, and if we really want to, we can keep Anniversary Iwa. So at least Garam and Nare should be replaced by Xiexia and Yellowy. But whatever, doesn't matter. And we can have a look at another fight. I think the last one of the floor 109 was a bit better. I used mainly the same teams. I didn't even bother to switch them. So yeah, again, all of these were really good for the red team in general. But let's see. And after this, I think we can just end the video here. There shouldn't be much more to say about him or to show. When I will reach higher deficits, I will maybe do a dedicated video on showcases for some of the units that I have at high ranks in the tier list. But that's about it, I would say. Also, look here, with just a couple of basic attacks, and Dorsey was already dead. So the basic attacks are already amazing. Here, AoE attack, the damage was pretty high. Yellow deals nothing. Here, other bangs on random targets. 2 more units dead, and this stupid Awakened Rock just trolled me by imprisoning that unit there before she was hit by the bangs, but then Viole just deleted her. So yeah, that was pretty quick, and again, low deficit, so it doesn't matter. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much all. Let me know if you have any questions or doubts in the comments down below. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Bye.